All right, guys, we got a real special treat for you today, or at least I think it's going to be a treat. We're going to college today, Soils College, that is. We got a special guest out here on the farm, very well-renowned soil scientist from the University of Kentucky, whose research I've been following for quite a few years. He brought his probe truck, and we're going to do a lot of digging in our soils, find out exactly what's going on, what problems we've got, and how we might continue to improve those problems in the future. So I'll introduce you to him right after the break. All right, who we got here with us today is Dr. Lloyd Murdock from University of Kentucky. Was a professor emeritus. Is that how you say that?
Emeritus, yeah.
And George Pettit, they've come down here to take a look at what we're doing with soil health on our farm, cover crops, and they brought their probe truck here to where we can dig some deep cores and just see exactly what's going on in the soil. So, George, you want to say a little bit about what you've been involved in here recently?
I've been chasing cover crops now for about 25 years, and I've been chasing the soil microbiology and how to restructure it and make it work for us for at least 30 years. And right now today I'm with a new startup called Kentucky American up in Kentucky, and working with them, working with growers, trying to help them find a better way to produce a better crop for less money.
Now, what were you telling me about fragipans? Because that's what we're going to be studying primarily here today is how to get rid of these naturally occurring fragipans that we got. What size area did you say that these fragipans cover across the U.S.?
Well, fragipan starts out in Grenada, Mississippi, basically speaking. It runs up the Mississippi River Basin, the Ohio River Basin, I go as far as Cincinnati and then I shut it down. There's roughly 32 million acres of cropland between Grenada and Cincinnati. If we were able to, everybody go to use an annual ryegrass as a cover crop on these fragipan soils, over time we would be able to at least sequester enough water, around 70,000 gallons of water per acre. And if you were able to do that, we most likely over a period of time would start eliminating the red tide in the Gulf and maybe shrinking the hypoxia zone in the Gulf. It'd be a wonderful story for agriculture to tell the nation and to tell the people, and we have to always look, we're not the only generation that's going to farm this land. There's going to be young people behind us. There's going to be people that have to farm this land. If we can somehow better define the annual ryegrass, what it does, how it acts, give farmers confidence that they can get rid of it, then I think we've got a great story that we can sell the American people.
And the importance to me on this is that talking about water infiltration and storing more water, typically our most limiting factor here in West Tennessee, because we don't have any irrigation, is water holding capacity. So if I can get rid of this, if I can get rid of this fragipan to allow the roots to go deeper in the soil, to allow the water to percolate farther down in the soil, this will further drought proof our land, and the type of land that I'm dealing with is very highly eroded with not a whole lot of water storage capacity. So for me, annual ryegrass is a very big tool in that, and it's going to be a continued journey. And who actually got me started using annual ryegrass, which is it's a dirty word in agriculture because nobody thinks you can kill it, was following the research of Dr. Murdock and what he's done in the past years, seeing what effects the roots of annual ryegrass have on dissolving these fragipans. Dr. Murdock, can you tell us a little bit about maybe what we're looking for today and can expect from the annual ryegrass and my cover crop mix?
For as long as we've been farming, we just accepted the fact that the fragipans were here and we're going to have to live with them. And so in 2012, I put together a team that's if we could do something about it. And we went to the laboratory first, tested a lot of things, and the one that we found we found things that would do it, but the one that was really good was annual ryegrass. We have found that annual ryegrass will break the fragipan and it starts at the surface, and then it slowly breaks it down. But there's weaknesses in this pan, and you can actually, with time, it's slow, but with time you can get those roots all the way through that pan. If you've got 2 feet of topsoil, which you know, if you're in a Fragipan soil, that's about as much as you'll have. You've got enough water. You got 5 inches. You got 5 inches of usable water, and every foot gives you 2.5 inches more. Now, 5 inches of usable water when you start out in the spring, and we'll assume that you start out with all of that, and you get 4 inches of rain a month over those growing periods, you're going to run out. Now, it won't die, but it'll slow that crop down to the point that you don't get maximum yields. And so if we've proven that you can take that ryegrass as a cover crop, and with time you can break it down, and you're adding a little bit of water holding capacity each time you get. If you get all the way through that pan, you totally change that soil to something that drains well and something that will produce well. And it's easy to farm. You don't have this soupy mess on top that you usually have. And you know, it'll last longer as far as water holding capacity in the summertime. So it'll totally change it, but it takes time. And really, there's only 2 crops we found: Festuloleum and annual ryegrass. Festuloleum is mainly a pasture grass. It's only adapted to the northern part of the United States. It wouldn't work well here. We're going to look here. You've grown ryegrass several years, so we're going to look and see what we can find as far as, and compare it to something else. But you not only change the depth of the soil, you change the quality of the soil. Basically, you take that top several inches and you add organic matter, and it becomes like cookie crumbs at the bottom of a cookie bag. And so you get water movement, you get much easier, you get root growth much easier, and you actually increase your water holding capacity in that's already soil. So there's several ways you can gain from this.
Well, I'm anxious to see what's beneath the top of the soil. Let's go ahead and put your machine to use here.
Okay, we'll set it up, and then we'll get started on pulling it out.
All right, starting out here, if y'all remember from last fall, I did some selective ripping on some of my farms, just trying to see if we could break down into that Fragipan and get better rooting depth for our crops this coming up year. So we're going to start out probing here. We're going to probe in where I ripped, and then I've got right next to here is where I stopped ripping. We're going to pull some more probes here and just see what the soil looks like, and see if maybe the ripping did any difference on these cores that we pull. What's that Fragipan? What, about 6 inches
yes,
in the ground there?
Really close. This is most of your good functioning soil right here.
What, 3 inches maybe?
Yeah. You have a little bit of organic matter layer, you know, in here, not much. So this soil, you started from nothing. I mean, you have started from zero.
Well, when we stopped plowing in the late 90s, we were sitting about 0.5% or less organic matter on this soil, and of course it was extremely highly eroded, just not much topsoil to deal with at all on this farm.
Now, when you take this core and you look at it, you see how slick this is, where it cut through it. You know, it was a hard core. It cut through it. So this is a strong Fragipan all the way up to here. Now, you can see the differences in the way this looks here and here. You follow what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, you can see we're seeing more gray material here.
So yeah, this is beginning to change here. You know, yeah, it's beginning to change. There's no change here. So one way to.
So how are you identifying the change? Oh,
basically, this was what's left over that wasn't washed away. Right here. Okay, this is where the Fragipan is or was. I'm not sure. We'll look at it in just a minute. All right. And then this is where it's just as solid as it can be right here.
Are you just kind of looking at how it's crumbling up?
Yeah, how it's crumbling, right, and the difference in colors. You see the difference between here and here? So I'm going to take this knife. I'm going to go down through there. See, that's cutting through pretty good, right? So, see? Yeah. Now you're getting on top. You see? So right here is the top of the true Fragipan. You follow me? Okay, now this looks like, to me, I've seen hundreds of them. This looks like what was Fragipan material. You follow me? Now this isn't completely changed. So what happens is, so you get rains. So I don't know what that's 9 inches. You got about 15 inches here of functional soil, I think. You get a rain here, and you get this all wet where it's absorbed all it can absorb, and then, so you an inch would be about 4 times that. So you'd go up about 1 inch of rain would saturate this right here. Another inch would saturate up to this point. You follow what I'm trying to say? So over the period of the winter, you get it completely stacked up because there's no water going down here.
All right. Well, I mean, this soil right here, I mean, it feels moist, so how is water, is it just a really, really slow process?
There it is. It's completely dry out in the summertime, so there is a bit of water that gets in here, but it's very, very infinitesimally small. And you don't have any roots going in here. So, you know, it's useless.
Well, just, you know, looking at this cover crop, it's what, February 21st, so, you know, we definitely haven't gotten full rooting depth by the time, you know, like what we're going to have by the time we terminate this cover crop. But
so your rooting is slow, and this is getting pretty close to the real Fragipan.
yeah, I can see a pretty big difference.
Yeah.
Changing color right there.
Yeah, well, just the change in the way it flakes out. You know, I was just getting crumbs up here. Now you're getting out big chunks.
Okay.
You follow what I'm trying to say? So,
Yeah.
so that's solidified. That's solid. This is all solid here. Yeah, there's one little root right there.
Yeah, there's some. I can see some
Yeah.
roots here.
So you're getting a few roots down through this. They'll mainly grow through this this right here. So you're probably getting it. If that's a ryegrass root, and that's the most aggressive of the things you planted, that's the most aggressive rooter.
So the roots are going to go through down this gray lattice work down through the
They'll go down here,
Fragipan.
and that'll be the first thing that'll be changed. This will change fairly quickly. Now this right here, that will be these are what they call prisms, Fragipan prisms, the red part, and those are really hard and they're really hard to change, but they will change. I've seen them change in the laboratory. I've seen them change in the greenhouse and in the field.
So what is it about the annual ryegrass that kind of dissolves this Fragipan?
That's one thing that the speculation is at this point that it's a chelate, and so if you have aluminum silicate, which is the main ingredient in this gel that hardens and causes all this, if that chelate can come in and pull that aluminum away from that silicate, then it changes that compound to just silica, which it can be soluble and move out, and then the aluminum, you know, stays with the chelate. So basically, that's the one strong possibility that's what it is.
So it was actually a chemical reaction that actually formed the Fragipan in the first place.
That's right. This Fragipan right here, if you break it up with a piece of equipment that would disturb it and fracture it, and you leave it and don't do anything else, it'll re-solidify. So you don't gain anything by mechanical disturbance if you don't change it in some way beyond that.
Kind of what I've been preaching is a lot of people are turning back to tillage, but at best it's only a temporary solution and not a permanent fix.
At the very best, there's been a number of research. Sometimes you'll get a small yield increase the first year, and sometimes it'll be reduced and still some there the second year. And then a lot of times there's nothing even after you do the tillage. So
Well, my hope was when I did do this ripping, because we did it before we planted the cover crops, was to try and loosen up that soil as deep as I could get it to make it easier for my cover crop roots to penetrate down into the soil, and then hopefully they can start affecting the change we're looking for.
see though, that right there, that's the structure you want. You don't want one like this. You know, this is just hard.
Yeah, so this is definitely a lot harder, a lot more solid, where
yeah.
we're a lot more crumbly right here.
So some of your Fragipan roots are getting through this right here and beginning to make a change, but it's already made a change up here. It appeared to me, and we've lost it now, but it appeared to me that the Fragipan when it first started was right there. You know, the original Fragipan.
Now,
because there was still some.
When you get rid of the Fragipan, will you get rid of this gray material because you're getting more oxygen down? So will it start looking more like the top?
And in the laboratory and in the greenhouse, what you see is this kind of bleaches. This when you first start, you'll get a kind of a bleaching color on it, and then with time, this becomes about the same color as the subsoil. But now that takes time.
Well, what's the difference in subsoil and fragipans? Because I was just always under the impression that they were one and the same.
Topsoil is where you have your influence of your organic matter. It's a different color. It's a darker color, more brown. And then the subsoil is somewhat similar to the topsoil, but it doesn't have much organic matter, so it's usually a little bit redder, a little bit lighter in color than the subsoil, but still supports good root growth and things like that. And then when you get to the Fragipan, it's totally different because there's nothing can be sustained there hardly.
So we're looking at how much topsoil do you think I got? Where do you think the subsoil starts? And then we've already identified where the Fragipan started.
So there's a little bit of change right here in color and stuff right there. And so I would say that the topsoil ends there, and you've got a little bit of subsoil there, and then this is just kind of we'll just pull it out and look at it. But you can see that this is kind of a mixture of different colors and different things. See those, I don't know if you can see that. See the red right there, and then you got the different colors on both sides. This used to be a Fragipan because that is a Fragipan prism. In other words, that's like some of this stuff down here that's really hard. But the rest of this has kind of been changed some way. And so now that'll change eventually too, but it's one of the hardest and the most difficult ones to change. So this was actually part of the Fragipan at one time, because you can't have those prisms like that without having the Fragipan.
What kind of rate of change can producers expect when introducing annual ryegrass as a cover crop? I guess it all depends on how long they let it grow before they terminate it and everything.
Yeah, it depends on how long you let it grow. I mean, you want it at least about 10 inches high before you kill it. When I did it in the greenhouse where I could watch it and see everything happen, the first year, the first time I grew it, I didn't see much the very first time. And then the second year, I began to see those roots penetrate deeper. I began to see this bleaching that takes place at the top. And then as it continued to grow over 7 or 8 different times with annual ryegrass, this began to change color up here, to a subsoil-like color, a little bit lighter color than the topsoil.
Maybe a ½ inch per year?
Half to an inch. But the thing that I found in the field was that this right here, you have some of these places, we got lucky and hit a zone of, or a vein, or what you want to call it. They penetrate down through the Fragipan vertically. The Fragipan will find those and it'll move down through those. So this may be red, dark red over here with a vein here, where those roots will preferentially go through there. And you can actually get a break all the way through the Fragipan sometime if you continue to grow it with time, and you don't have to break down the whole Fragipan.
How deep are these Fragipans normally? Because it looks like, we got a 40-inch probe, and it looks like to me, we still got Fragipan down here at the bottom.
This is still a Fragipan, but
it looks a little bit more blocky.
It is. This is not heavily consolidated. It's got Fragipan characteristics, but it's different than this.
Yes,
that's the difference between the two.
Yeah, definitely a lot more solid up here.
So if you get a breakdown down to here, with that right there, with this being on top of it, you'll begin to see some rooting, and you'll begin to get water movement through that.
So, looking at how deep we got to go, probably about the time I'm ready to hang up my tractor keys, I'll have success on getting rid of all this.
You make a little bit of gain every time, but when you break through is when you get the best. I wish I could do it quicker, but I can't. Well, right now, if you get a mechanical disturbance, of some type through there, like we talked about. These people were able to do that, and then you plant annual ryegrass through it. Then those roots go down fast because they've got a direct conduit, and so maybe with something like that, we can eliminate much quicker. Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Well, let's get over here out of the non-rip ground and see if this top layer of the Fragipan, if it looks the same, or if maybe the ripping was maybe what caused this to be a little bit more blocky, because we were penetrating it and disturbing it.
Okay, let's do that.
All right, we last pulled about 40 feet over that way in rip ground, and now we moved over here to the non-rip ground, see what kind of a difference we might see in soil structure. All right, before you explain to me, let me see if I can identify based upon what you told me before. It looks like Fragipan initially started about right here. We got another couple inches of topsoil, and then this looks like it's kind of crumbly up until you get to about right here, and then from here on down it looks pretty solid. Am I correct?
I think we'll just give you your diploma right now.
All right.
You got a really good dark layer at the top, so there's a lot of organic matter you put in the ground right there at the top. So that's probably from those cover crops. Then we're in good shape here with the soil and soil. Yeah. See, now you can see that it's beginning to change. It's a little bit.
Well, you can kind of see the cottage cheese.
Yeah, you can see the cottage cheese. You can see this has changed. You got pretty good rooting right here, right there. Good rooting. Now I didn't make the measurements a while ago. I probably should have, but this right here is getting fairly solid. Is this where you said?
Well, I was looking about. It looked like maybe right about here started not getting quite as crumbly.
But look at that. Look at this. We
got a nice root going down in there.
So you're getting a significant. I think it's a change, because look how dark that is. I don't know if you can see it or not. See how dark that soil is compared to that around it? Just like this compared to this.
Well, we don't just have one main stem. I mean, we got a bunch of fibers down in here. That means it's actually, kind of going through the soil.
Well, it's been going for a while, because you changed the color of the soil around that particular core, around that. See, you're getting.
Oh wow! Look at that.
And see, that's dark in there. Where basically this is the it's making headway as far as making some changes, but it hasn't reached out beyond that at this point. Now we're getting down close to where you said the pan.
Yeah, no, you're nice having a hard time going in there.
So this is hard.
We got a root fiber.
Got a root too. Yeah, and you'll have them in that this part of the Fragipan. It's got that gray in it. It's not as hard, and it's easier for the ryegrass to get through, and so you're getting some of it through that right there.
Have you noticed what looks like any old corn roots from the past crop? I'm just kind of curious how deep.
Yeah, well, the corn roots should be able to get through here. That's been opened up for a while.
That looks like an old root right there, potentially a corn root.
Yeah, probably. That's an old root. Yeah.
And that's what, about 3 feet down.
So, yeah. You don't need a ruler or anything, do you? So we're getting a few rootings in this part of the pan in those weak zones, So that tells you that actually this could break down. If you keep growing ryegrass, I would expect this to change fairly rapidly down to here for sure.
And again, it's late February. We can ryegrass is still sending down roots, isn't it? And it does that until it really starts growing vegetatively, and then it kind of stops focus on root growth.
It starts focusing on root growth when it approaches heading.
So we still got close to 2 months of potential rooting.
So you should. Those are new roots. So you're getting rooting down to here.
Let's measure how much the dissolved Fragipan is. I'm guessing about 5 inches.
You're getting rooting at this point down to about 2 feet. And you're getting rooting in the Fragipan. Now, it's not dissolved, but you're getting rooting down 17, 18 inches.
Well, would you consider this part up here dissolved?
Yes, I would. I would consider, well, not completely, but practically speaking, it would make a significant difference.
So what, about 5 inches?
Yeah, 5, 6 inches.
Well, that goes along with what you're saying about a ½ inch per year, because we've been doing about 9 years on this field.
But you still got one root right there in this gray area, you know, where it's not as solidified and easier. You're still getting a ryegrass root growing all the way down to here. Now, there's not a lot of help, and we don't see where it has been able to establish a track that other roots would go at this point, but it is making that, it is moving that way. I don't know that you're ripping. I think you're ripping shattered a little bit more up here, you know, but I don't know. But if you look at the rooting, I don't know if that we saw here, there was significant rooting in there. I don't know if you gained a lot. You know?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, this visual analysis, you know, you really can't tell too much that you really can't tell too much that a ripper actually went through the ground.
No, you really can't. We'd have to know that it went through there to really say, yeah, there's a ripper through there.
So it's been around 5 months since I've ripped it, and the soil has, and we got roots in there, but the soil has kind of returned back to its natural state.
Pretty close.
Well, I'm really excited to know that we are making progress. I always thought that we were doing the right thing and we would see this progress, but to be able to actually visualize it and quantify it really shows me the potential that we've got. It's not a short process and it's not an easy process, but if you do it right, it is a permanent process to hopefully increase the productivity on our farms long term. All right, we're just over here, just literally right across the road from where we were before. This is in a long-term no-till field, and going to be interested to see how it compares to what my long-term cover crop fields look like. Should be pretty much the same soil type, been pretty much the same practices, crop rotation, everything. The only difference is I've been using a lot of chicken litter and been using cover crops for about 10 years, whereas this farm is just being strictly no-till for that time.
Now we're hitting the pan, starting getting harder. But this is a topsoil, and I'm trying to figure out exactly where the line is. I guess it's right there. As far as the top part, this is a good soil. We got 8 inches of topsoil that it crumbles well. It's got a good structure to it.
You don't see that very dark ring in the top couple inches from the cover crop that we saw.
No, we don't see that. Yours was black on top, but this has been no-till quite a while or something. The residue's been left on top. This is all subsoil here. You can see that it peels back and it's got a nice structure, nice easy. Now we're starting to move into something different. You can tell by the way it. Okay, this is pan. This is hard. This is really hard. So subsoil stops right about there. So we had 8 inches on top of that plus 15 more. That's 23. So he's got 23 inches down to where you know, we have some. Which is about normal, you know, for Grenada. About 2 feet of soil on top.
He's definitely got deeper soils over here than what I did on mine.
Basically, who farmed yours before, you lost a lot.
Yeah. I don't know if I ever remember cotton being grown on this farm, and we all know how hard cotton is on the soil, especially promoting erosion and not really adding much back to the soil, and that might be a big part of it.
That could be a really big part of it. Because you've got cotton out there with no residue on the surface, and all winter long it's just washing away.
Well, that farm that we were on of mine, you know, we farmed it a long time, but there for forever, I mean, it was strictly cotton and conventional till.
But anyway, this is down there at about 20 inches, and this is where the water stands.
Now that where the Fragipan starts, but you're not really seeing any degradation of the Fragipan like we where we've been using annual ryegrass, though, are you?
No, there are no roots. This is the top of the pan, you know, over there where we saw degradation of the Fragipan. We saw roots, and remember how white this was compared. This is really a dark gray. Mm-hmm. Remember we had
mine was a lot more visible though.
It was kind of bleached color, and that shows. That's what I have found when annual ryegrass starts to break down the Fragipan. You get a bleaching effect in these gray areas. So that was more bleached. This is now there's no roots. This is solid. So down at 23 inches, about where we are, 23 to 26 or 7. That's what's happened. So if you grew annual ryegrass on this thing right here, it would get down here easily to this part right here. And we would see annual ryegrass roots growing right in through here, right through there, right through there. We'd see annual ryegrass roots. And then this would slowly change to non-consolidated or looser type soil structure that we saw over there where that Fragipan had been. This is a very normal Grenada Fragipan soil.
So his effective rooting depth was close to 2 feet.
2 feet.
But since he's not doing anything to change it, that's where it's always.
It will stay at 2 feet. Now,
so while this farm has got 2 feet of effective rooting depth because nothing's being changed and there's no ripper that's going to reach down to break up that Fragipan, that's what this soil's always going to be limited at. Where on ours, even though we have a lot shallower rooting depth initially, we're taking actions through annual ryegrass and other cover crops to add to the effective rooting depth that we're going to get. It's just going to take a lot of time. Hopefully we'll get there eventually though.
For what little actual soil you had above the Fragipan on that first field that we saw on your soil, it was amazing the rooting that was into what, the changes that have been taken in the rooting that you got. I don't know how deep it was, but we found rooting quite deep in there.
Well, I know we found roots 3 feet deep, even though we're not about 2 feet of Fragipan.
And at 2 feet here, it just stops.
Yeah.
There's no rooting. It just stops.
Well, I always say that we specialize in farming the ground that nobody else wants because we can bring it back to life eventually.
Well, you did a good job on that one. Starting out with almost nothing.
Yeah.
I've never seen one that bad before.
All right, we're out here in our adaptive management plots where I've had long-term replicated plots of no-till versus cover crop. You can see the flags here. So we're going to do some probing here in the no-till part and then go right next to it and where we had cover crops for a lot of years and see what kind of differences we can see in it. All right, you tell we've got wheat growing on this ground behind our cotton crop last year. Well, this has been cover cropped. It's been cover cropped 2 out of every 3 years. We'll plant a winter cover crop, and then after wheat, we'll plant a summer cover crop. So it's had 2 winter cover crops and 1 summer cover crop every 3 years. What kind of soil type we're looking at here?
Where we're at on the line.
Right on Grenada and Calhoun. There's your test fields.
Andy said we're right here on the line of Grenada and Calhoun. Like Grenada's probably right there and Calhoun's right here.
Okay, this Calhoun does not have a Fragipan, but we can see what the it acted like if we had something here, like we had a Fragipan. This is just poorly drained. We'll see what we got. So, what kind of cover crop have we had here and how long?
Actually, what we're on now is no-till. It has not had any cover crop whatsoever. The strip right next to us is what has been cover cropped.
Okay, this doesn't have Fragipan properties. Okay, here's what I see is a soil that's poorly drained, and there may be Fragic properties here that I can't, in this part here because it just stopped. I couldn't get the probe in the ground any further right here. So we'll look to see what that is. But right now, what I see is a poorly drained soil. Is this drained? You have tile drainage?
No, we do not have tile drainage. Well, I mean, we do have a 1 to 3% slope going back here to the ditch.
Okay, so what we have is a small, we have topsoil down to somewhere in here, and it varies where I might draw the line. But and then we grade into subsoil. and you have different colors in the subsoil here. Now, what happens when you get it's saturated a lot and it stays saturated a lot? It's reduced, and so that changes everything to a different state. And electronically is chemistry, okay? And then what you have is iron becomes soluble, manganese becomes soluble, and then they go down, and they accumulate. So these right here are concretions. They're little old small kind of buckshot. You can feel it, a buckshot type of. That's manganese and iron that's coalesced and they got down here and they coalesced into this material here. So that's accumulation of iron and manganese that have come from the top. It becomes soluble, and it's solidified together here. So that's what those are, and that's somewhat typical of a poorly drained soil down towards the bottom. And you can see it somewhere. You got the gray that we talked about.
Right here, we got a pretty distinct change right here.
We do have a distinct change through here. But that's hard, but it doesn't flake out like a Fragipan does, if you follow what I'm trying to say. And it's all that crap there. It's all those concretions and things that have accumulated right here. So this
is just natural, this soil type. There's really not anything we can do for it.
Nothing you can do besides drain it some way. That's all you can do. Now there may be Fragic. That's good soil. You got this in between. And now I think this is Fragipan right here. Right at the very bottom, we've got some Fragipan soil. But you got to go way down here to get it. And this is mapped as Calhoun or Grenada. It's on the line between the two. So it's probably more like Calhoun with a little bit of Fragic materials down at the very bottom.
Okay.
So it really probably wouldn't even count as a Fragipan. So I would have expected with cover crops to see more of a distinct topsoil with a darker color, with a very sharp break between the subsoil here and the topsoil up here. But you can see even here, you get water standing even in here. You see that color?
You can see the iron in the soil.
Yeah, you can see the iron. That's iron. Yeah, so that's what's happened. The accumulation of iron, and it's different than those prisms that we saw earlier. Where they're bigger.
Well, let's back up 38 feet, get over here to the cover crop, and see if there's any difference. All right, we're between the two flags right in the middle of our strip where we've been cover cropping intensively, about as intensive cover crop as you can get for the last 9 years. Like I said, every 2 out of 3 years it's got a winter cover crop on it, and then once every 3 years after wheat we've been planting a high biomass summer cover crop with about as many species as we can think of to throw into the mix.
I think this is an actual Grenada. You saw how that raised up. The other one didn't raise up until we got to the bottom. Let me go see if I can get it any deeper. I can't. It's hard.
However, the problem is the line for Grenada and the other one we were on was like literally right here, so it might not be comparing apples to apples.
Okay, we're in the Fragipan here.
Yeah, that's I wouldn't have thought that 30, 40 feet would make that much of a difference.
It's just huge, isn't it? It's just huge.
It's like we changed states almost.
Yeah, but you got your residue left over from this. You've got a really dark top. This first layer is really dark, and you really got dark. This is a whole lot darker than that over there was. The top 3 inches or so. Then you grade into the subsoil. Now we're beginning to grade into. This is the stopping of the topsoil. Subsoil. Yeah. And it's still productive down below here. It's 19 inches, but you can see the color change. It's getting lighter, which means that you have more water standing,
Yeah.
And then we're about to get into the Fragipan. Yeah, we got some roots. Now, was ryegrass planted in here in the past?
Yes, it's been part of the mix for 9 years.
Okay. So we had water standing on top of here, and this is those prisms that we spoke of earlier, where you have large hunks that are hard to change, then you've got these gray places they're solidified too in a regular Fragipan, but it's not as hard, and you can get roots growing through those. And you can see root right there. That root right there is, just coming out, just coming out of that. So this flakes off just like the Fragipan we've seen before, hard.
Are you seeing any degradation of the Fragipan here at the top from the annual ryegrass?
Well, you're getting root growth through here, and it's opening it up there. It's opening. It's in that gray area there. So you're getting root growth through here. This is just speculation because I don't have a side-by-side comparison. But you can see that the Fragipan actually, here's those Fragic prisms. Mm-hmm. So we know that at one time, this Fragipan was all the way up into here. But we're getting rooting down through here at this particular time.
Look like maybe about 5 inches has used to be Fragipan, but is now degraded.
Something like that, yeah. Yeah, I would say something like that. And we're getting roots all the way down through here, through this gray streak. This is actually getting harder as we go down through here. So,
which is what we saw on the very first farm.
That's right. So probably there's been some degradation down. Well, you can see good rooting here, right there through that gray streak there, and here it goes down through there, down to here. So we probably have some breakdown, a really good breakdown up here at the top. You follow me?
Are these live roots that we're seeing? Can you tell?
Yeah, they look live.
Because if they're live, I mean, the only thing we got growing out here is wheat, and I never thought that wheat rooted very deeply.
Well, if it's been opened up by the cover crop, it can go down.
Okay.
Wheat will, if it's uninhibited, it will root 2 feet in the fall.
Okay.
So we're really getting to some hard stuff here. No more roots, no more breaking down that I can see. So we got degradation. I told you things changed here. So the Fragipan at one time was probably here when we got evidence of it by the Fragic properties, and then it gets more consolidated. But we're still getting rooting through the gray areas that we talked about, which is beginning to break this part down. And then when we get to here, we haven't seen much change. I would expect that we could dig around here and find some places where the Fragipan's not. This is really solid. There's almost no gray through here. You follow me? So
the Fragipan itself is brown, but where it's starting to be broke up is gray.
I can't give you the geological explanation, but here is the Fragipan, hard as a brick. Here is the gray that's still hard and solidified, and that most roots can't go through. But we know that ryegrass can go through that, and it can begin to break that down. And that's what happened over there in that first field we saw, where you just kept having roots go through the Fragipan, which we called a Fragipan, but there were roots going through it because those had been broken down and allowed rooting to go deeper into the soil than we expected it to go.
I'm following.
So basically in this one, this is a really hard Fragipan with very little continuous channels for this rooting, the annual ryegrass, to go through. So that rooting, so we've got to change down to here that we see stuff, roots growing in here, making some change, and then somewhere down in here, it's very solid with none of that gray streaks that would allow it to be break down quicker than we ordinarily have.
I'll tell you what we can do. We can back up another 38 feet and get on a plot where we've had summer cover crop but no annual ryegrass in the mix. And if we don't see any degradation of that Fragipan, it kind of confirms what ryegrass does.
Yeah, that will help us.
Now, do you know of any summer grasses that break down Fragipan?
No. We tested quite a few. We tested clovers. We tested the common Kentucky crops, and we didn't find anything that would break it.
Okay. All right here we're over in our strictly summer cover crop mix. Had a summer cover crop applied on it once every 3 years after wheat, and annual ryegrass has not been in this mix, so we would expect to see no degradation of the Fragipan in this core right here. So what are you saying, Dr. Murdock?
Well, I'm saying that the Fragipan starts right in here somewhere.
It goes instantly, almost instantly hard right in here.
We got a nice little layer at the top of roots and organic matter. And it extends down to somewhere along in here. The color change, you see a color change between here and here. So right here is the beginning of the subsoil. I don't see fragic properties. Yeah, there we are. Yeah, that's hard. It's hard. Boy, this is subsoil. I mean, this is Fragipan's right here at the surface.
It's a little bit more eroded right here.
I would say so.
But we're saying no roots down through there that I can see.
I don't see a root one. Not a root one.
So I mean, it was subsoil and then instantly hard Fragipan with no degradation whatsoever.
I couldn't see any red degradation. I don't see any. It's hard. It's hard to pull out. And then so we take it up top and we pull it and look in the core itself, and we're looking for chances of something growing down through this area right here, because this is solid, but it's where the ryegrass plants can grow, but there's nothing there. So what you were growing on here was not able to penetrate into the pan.
Well, and the only difference between this one and our other no-till plot was this one has not had any annual ryegrass in it. It's just had a summer cover crop mix. So our first plot, our no-till plot, was a different soil type, and we didn't see a Fragipan until real deep down in the soil. And then our next plot over was in Grenada. We saw pretty shallow Fragipan that was starting to be dissolved, that it had a winter cover crop mix with annual ryegrass in the mix, and then finally third, very shallow Fragipan with a very distinct horizon layer between the subsoil and the Fragipan with no disintegration whatsoever and no annual ryegrass having been planted on this.
Well, you did a good job. That was good.
I don't know about y'all, but I'm convinced that what we're doing is definitely putting us on the right path. We're not there yet by a long shot, but we've made good inroads, and we're going to continue down this path, see what the future brings on getting our soils fixed up. So, Dr. Murdock, I want to thank you for coming down here, taking your time and looking at our soils. I've really got a big education, and George, really appreciate everything you told us too.
Coming down here. Yeah, we've learned too.
Well, you know, the way down here, and our farm is open to y'all anytime you want to come down here. Any further research y'all want to do, sure be glad to have y'all down here.
Come back and work on the fungi.
All right, if you can help me with mycorrhizal fungi,
that's what we got to work on.
I'd really be grateful.
We'll work on it.
Thank you. Well, Andy, how did you enjoy your first college soils class?
That was the most interesting thing we could have really done today, besides changing more filters.
Yeah, we got work to do here in the shop today, but 4 or 5 hours we spent with George and Dr. Murdock was absolutely invaluable. I always knew that we were on the right path, but today we had visual confirmation of what I thought was going to happen in the soil through our use of annual ryegrass and cover crops is actually happening. So we still got a long ways to go, but hopefully in my career we will actually get there. So again, the one thing that you ought to get from this video is that cover crops are not just enough. I mean, they're a fantastic start, but if you've got fragipans and you need to break down those fragipans, there's only one thing out there that you can plant right now that will do it, and that's annual ryegrass. Now, I know annual ryegrass is a dirty word in most agricultural circles because everybody thinks you can't kill it. You can kill it. We've been doing it for 10 years. It is possible. The key to doing it, you can kill it this way at any stage in its lifetime. Now, we plant everything green, so we're talking maximum biomass. A lot of times the annual ryegrass is headed out, but this works at any stage in the ryegrass's life cycle. Whenever you plant or whenever you decide to terminate your cover crop, spray paraquat, 32 ounces of paraquat, and what that does is that will burn the ryegrass all the way down to the ground. Now, the reason ryegrass is hard to kill is because it's got such a massive root system on there. But anyway, use a paraquat to burn it down to the ground. The ryegrass will put back out, but what that does is that weakens the root system. And then once that root system is weaker, then 2 to 3 weeks later, when the ryegrass starts putting back out pretty good, go back in there with 32 ounces of glyphosate and you will smoke it. I smoked it every single year. We don't have any problems with ryegrass in our fields competing with wheat or other crops. And we're getting all the massive benefits from manual ryegrass and what it's doing to the soil. So,
and it's not that far out of like what every other practices. I mean, you're still going in with
I mean, if you got pigweed problems in your fields, I mean, your standard burn down before planting needs to be paraquat anyway to wipe out the pigweed. So, like Andy said, it's not out of what we're already doing as far as approved practices. So anyway, guys, I really hope y'all enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. I learned a whole lot today. Hopefully y'all got something out of there, and hopefully you came away with some ideas to change your management to improve your soils and improve your productivity down the road. I really appreciate y'all watching. We'll see you in the next one.